Hi everyone and welcome to the Optimised Practice Podcast. I'm your host Emma Price and today I'm joined by the amazing Michael Schumacher from HMDG, and together we're going to be discussing the Online Marketing 101. So welcome Michael, thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. And marketing, the word that everyone hates and no one understands.
Yes, the dark art that is marketing. Let's get on with it. So if you were faced with a new client, you had a brand new healthcare practice, what are the first three things you'd put into place before spending a single pound of advertising? And kind of what mistakes do you see people making if they're sort of going it alone? So what are the first three things you want them to do?
We do about 5 of these a month. So I'm familiar with exactly how this should run. So the first thing is systems, making sure you have the right systems in place. An example might be making sure you've got a decent booking system, because you can do all the marketing in the world, but if you're using a crappy booking system that takes people 30 clicks to get into and book an appointment, don't do marketing because your costs are just going to be too high. So I think making sure you've a good system for booking, also for answering telephone calls, right? You've got to be really careful about that, because if it's just going to your mobile and you're in clinic all day and you can't answer the phone, that's not ideal. So make sure you are able to respond to customer inquiries. The next most important thing is, this is no different to going on a date, right? I love my analogies. Dress nicely. If you've got a crappy website you've built on Wix, if you've got something that doesn't really speak to your brand, don't bother doing marketing. And we've all done this, right? We've all gone to a website, it's slow, it doesn't look very good, it's got crappy pictures on it. You do that, you're wasting all of your money on marketing. So make sure that you've got a great website. Now, it doesn't need to be a 20 grand professional website, but just think through what needs to go on your website. So if I'm booking something, I want to know who's treating me. I want to get a vibe of the clinic. One of the things that we always do, not always, but majority of the time, is a little walkthrough video of what it's like coming into the clinic. If you've got a really nice looking clinic, then do a walkthrough video. If you don't, then just do some nice pictures. Make sure you've not just a white room with a person in it looking in like they're in pain. Put a picture up, just do something to make it look nice, because everyone now within healthcare, we all know what it's like to go to an awful dentist where it's like an NHS clinic. That's not what people want anymore. They want aspiration. They want to feel comfortable. They want to know who's treating them. So make sure your website's right, and make sure that you push the team. People want to push the brand too much, and the brand is actually less important. The real brand nowadays is the people behind it. So what does Emma like doing, right? I don't care where you went to university, and trust me, no one's ever gone to a dentist and gone, oh, I wonder where they went to university and what their qualifications are. I want to see what you enjoy doing. Are you a mum? What are your hobbies? Because people connect with that. So your website has to enable people to connect with you and be really simple to book through. Make sure you list your conditions, the things that you treat, and so on. Those are the first two things that I would do. At that point, the next most important thing is everyone should do marketing. People will be surprised by that. But there's a reason. I don't know if anyone's ever tried to buy a Rolex. Walk into a shop, impossible to buy one, right? How much do they spend on marketing? Billions. So you've got to do marketing for all sorts of reasons, and we may get into that later. But the kind of marketing is really important, because if it's just you and you have one appointment a week, don't do Google ads, don't do acquisition type marketing, because all you're going to do is you're going to spend a load of money driving people to a website where they can't book. And I want you to imagine another analogy. You want to book a hair appointment and the first appointment is in 2 weeks. You're going to go and find somewhere else, right? Or you're looking for a plumber or a doctor. I always say, if you're thinking about marketing, always think about a plumber, because you're very, very similar in many ways. People hate that, but you are. People don't go, you know what? I want to see Emma and talk to her about my feet. They come because they have a problem, right? And plumbers are the same. You don't just think, oh, I'll get the plumber around. What is the problem? So have a look at plumbers' websites. Like, what do you want to see? Where are they going wrong? And if they don't have availability, going back to the availability point, if they don't have availability for a week and your boiler's just broken, you will go somewhere else. Be very, very sure. And this, by the way, goes for mega clinics as well. If you have really high utilization, you don't have appointments available within 24, 48 hours, then you have to really think about your marketing mix and the kind of marketing that you'll do. Website, making sure you've got right booking system. And then there's also some free stuff actually that you have to do. Google Business is an obvious one. Make sure you've got a Google Business set up. Make sure that you've got your clinicians on there, the services, make sure the address is right, make sure the phone number's right, all of that sort of stuff. Put pictures up and also update it regularly. Once a month is plenty, but just put something on there, something new, just to keep it fresh. And it's completely free to do, it takes no time at all. So I would definitely recommend that. Those are the key things. Now, there are many more things you can do if you've got a load of cash behind you. So we had a clinic which grew to 500k in about 9-10 months, and they did everything right from the start. So pre-launch of the business, we were building the website. We had it up 3 months before. We were doing SEO 3 months before. We had branding campaigns ready to go on Facebook and or Meta in general. We had Google Ads set up. We had a photo shoot done. And if you really have the money to do it, then that's how you get spectacular growth very, very quickly. But it's not necessary. And again, don't go spending thousands of pounds if it's just you and you need a few appointments a week. Like, it's not that important. And then from just the final thing is networking. I think that's super important, whether that's with people always want to go to golf clubs and stuff. Every MSK clinic's been at their door already. What about the local yoga club or the local, just things you wouldn't, kids hairdresser? Let's say you're doing peds orthotics, go and see the kids hairdresser. Like, get a relationship going, because I think the more, particularly if you're in an area where there's lots of local businesses, local restaurants. We did a thing where we did a deal with a women's health person and an independent restaurant where they ran their women's health evenings where they all got pissed and on a Wednesday, and the restaurant said free food, you just pay for the wine, and they loved it. And then the restaurant kind of pushed the mums. So there's lots of things you can do. Think outside the box. It doesn't have to be a GP, a consultant. It can be any kind of business. That's about it.
I just want to go back to the point. So you said, make sure you've got good systems in place. So booking system, online booking, and a good PMS. So lots of them available. Clinico, Nucal, all these guys. Make sure you've got a good quality one. Website brand, make sure you're pushing your team and the people behind it, because that's what people are looking for. And then you mentioned the type of marketing. Can you just dive in a little bit deeper there? So you said, if you're busy, be careful about the type of marketing you're doing. So let's just say you are busy, but you want to grow. What sort of marketing would you recommend for that kind of clinic?
So the first answer to that is hire some more clinicians first.
Yeah.
But I would do much more branded things. So there's two parts of this. One is protection. You've got to protect yourself. I'll give you a real world example. Clinic on the Isle of Wight, it had 3 clinics. And they came to us and they said, our appointments are down 70%. We don't know why. It was because some clever sports therapist with a Theragun and a plinth opened up a mobile service, and they just knew what they were doing on socials, on web, and so on. And they started seeing other clients. So you've got to be doing marketing to protect yourselves. And then at the same time, you've got to be doing that marketing to help your brand grow and be more visible. Everything, again, is about visibility. The more visible you are, the better. So I would be looking at, and I don't mean acquisition campaigns, get your first appointment for free or 25 quid off, any of that nonsense, but I would be looking at doing really cool branded ads on Meta. I would potentially, if you have the time, and most people don't, I would be looking at TikTok. There are some brilliant TikToks out there from clinicians that do incredibly well. We know one, Emily, is a good example.
So good.
So if you've got the time, then do that stuff. But again, all of it has to be personal. No one's interested, I promise you, no one's interested in your company. No one cares about your company. Everyone's interested in you as a person. What do you do? So, we have a HMDG Instagram. Yeah, we use it, but no one ever comes through it. But they all come to mine or Hannah's and they look at it and they go, oh, you're the guys, you're really interesting. You do funny stuff. You're the guys that run that marketing agency for MSK clinics. Yes, we are. So that's where the real interest lies.
So TikTok,
Instagram, Facebook, depending on the audience that you're going for. But I would definitely be running those sort of ads that are much more about, hey, we're a really cool team. These are the things that we do. This is who we are. This is where we are. Nothing about like book an appointment now or get money off, because that stuff's nonsense. It's like the olden days where, if you remember, where you put your thing in the yellow pages or you put a billboard up, and it was just so people, you still see it on the tube, don't you? It's just that recognition. So the next time I think, oh, I need to go and see a podiatrist, I think, I need to go and see Superfoot. They're the guys, I've heard of them before, right? Another thing I would say is that if you're really busy, your product mix becomes incredibly important, because if you think about, let's just say 3 treatments, right? You've got your routine, you've got your verrucas, and you've got your Swift, and you've got your nail surgery. You may find that 90% of all of your clients are routine podiatry. and don't want to get into the weeds on this too much, but is there a possibility that you could move your marketing to a more high-end MSK service, which, by the way, is not always more profitable? I think everyone thinks it is. It's not always, but it certainly keeps your clinicians happier, and maybe you happier as a clinician as well. But can you do anything there in terms of moving things around? So if you're a physio, for example, TMJ is one of the most sought after services. It's got one of the highest search volumes, and people will pay for it. And also referrals are huge from dentists and so on. So rather than just pushing general physiotherapy at 70 quid or whatever people are charging, why not push something a bit more sort of high end? The other thing I'd say is if you're really busy, and I know clinic owners hate this, but if you're really busy, you're not charging enough. Charge more money. I don't want to advertise stuff too much, but go to our website. There's a pricing engine on there, which allows you to put in all your details, and it will tell you what you should charge for pricing and the strategy behind it. So go and have a look at that.
I think that's a really, really good point, and it's something we absolutely teach at the Hive. If you're busy, you're nowhere near price sensitivity. That's absolutely a key point. Do hammer that one. So yeah, I'd encourage people to use your pricing generator. Absolutely, I've got no problem with that, Michael. I think it's a great idea because it's so important, because it allows you to build margins into your business so you can grow if that's what you want to be doing. And it is everything. Protecting your margins of your business is the fundamentals of running a business.
But it's also marketing, and we spoke about this the other day. People always think that if you reduce your price, you get more patients, and if you increase it, you get fewer. That isn't actually the case. We cannot tell whether a clinician or a clinic is good or not. We just don't know, right? And even once we've seen the clinician, we generally don't know, or I say we as in people like me, we aren't all that aware. How do we judge if something is good or not? If I show you two t-shirts, one's £1,000 from Laura Piana and the other one's £5 from H&M, which one's better? You're going to say the £1,000 one, right? Why? Because everyone equates price with value. And this is how solicitors get away with charging £5,000 an hour, right? It is not true to say that if you put your price up, your demand goes down. The other thing is you can be quite strategic. And there's two things that we've done that work incredibly well. First is tiered pricing. So for example, if you want to hire me, it's going to cost you a lot more than if you hire one of the junior guys in the company. And the same should ring true for your clinic. You all do it in your hairdresser, right? You can spend 50 quid or £5,000 if you want the stylistic creative director, right? So think about tiered pricing. If one of you is incredibly busy, put your price up. There's not a clinic owner in the country that should be charging, when they're busy, that should not be charging 140, 150 pounds for an hour's appointment or a 45 minutes appointment. You are the top dog, and the demand will remain. The other thing that's quite an interesting strategic one is most clinics have a follow-up, an initial and a follow-up pricing, which is one of the most confusing things to every patient on the planet, because it's the only industry where you have that initial and your follow-up. And we've seen this hundreds of times now, where you make them the same price. Your cost is £70 or whatever. Now, let's say you do the maths on that. Let's say, just for my number's sake, £100 is your initial and 70 is your follow-up. Let's just say you are losing £30 on every follow-up appointment, and the real money is in follow-ups, right? So if you do 3 sessions, let's just say on average, you've just lost £90, right? If you make it 100 and 100 instead of 170, you make £90 for every X patient. You see 100 patients, that's an extra £9,000 a month, right? It's serious money, and that's a very easy way of kind of standardizing pricing, making it more understandable for clients, because we have so much data where people look at initial appointment or existing patient, new patient, they get really annoyed. One other one, because this is a really, really important one. The bigger the gap between your initial price and your follow-up price, the more expensive your initial price looks. Okay, it's basic psychology. There's a brilliant thing to look at, actually. If you just type economist pricing experiment, they did some brilliant pricing experiments on this. But if you walk into a shop and there's butter for £4 and butter for £3.80, the £4 one does not look expensive. If you see a £4 one and a £1 one, suddenly that looks more expensive. So the closer you are in your initial and follow-up, the cheaper your initial looks. So if you currently have more than a 20% difference between the two and you don't want to standardize because you're too worried about it, then think about just tightening and closing up those 2 appointment types. It again makes a massive difference. And from a marketing perspective, all of this is very much marketing because it's human psychology in terms of how do I choose which clinician to go to? I had a C5, C6 issue a while back, and I found the most expensive person to go and see because I thought that person would be the best. When my other half was looking at eye surgery because she was blind as a bat, there was actually a clinic doing a 2-for-1 on her laser eye surgery. That's not getting you the kind of patient you want. So we went and found like the most expensive. Of course, reviews and things are important as well, but price is definitely something that can generate. I went on a bit there, but it's really important.
It is important, and I think this is part of the marketing piece, isn't it? So thank you for your insights. It's really, really valuable. And just going back to the networking piece, this is something that I often discuss. Before you spend a penny on any ads or marketing, go to what I always say, go where people talk. So yes, the physios, the doctors, the osteos locally to you, or your podiatrist locally to you, of course. And then you want to create that cross-network referral system so you get this lovely steady stream and a long-term trust relationship with your colleagues. However, if you want to drive referrals outside of that, go where people talk. Putting a leaflet up in a hardware store is one thing, but you want to make sure there's an interaction in that business. So a nail bar, a hairdresser, like where are the mums? If you want to treat children, where are the mums and dads going and hanging out?
Good point, right? If people are getting pedicures, they are like absolutely perfect. We did a couple of things actually. One interesting one, we had a pod who wanted to do a load of biomechanical stuff. So we got them to go to the local, it's like a triathlon shop, marathon shop that does all the kit and stuff. And just said, go in on a Saturday morning, do it for free, do all the cool stuff. And everyone look at it and go, yeah, this is amazing. And they to this day still do it twice a month. And they get so many customers from it. I have a friend who's a hairdresser. She owns a hairdressing salon. And I just said to her, go and get in touch with the local summer camps. Because if you're a parent, you know that kids hate getting haircuts, right? Charge an extra tenner, or get the camp to charge an extra tenner, and we'll cut your kid's hair at camp. She made an absolute fortune from it. And then guess what? Everyone goes to her afterwards. So there are so many kind of innovative things that you can do that aren't necessarily go and speak to the local golf club and go and see the local consultant, because they're inundated already. And all of it is about relationships, and then also keeping those relationships going, because it's no good just chatting to someone, getting something good happening, and then never talking to them for another year or two. You've got to stay in touch, and you've got to keep them engaged.
I agree. So the next question I have is around ads. So if you were to use Meta, or you brought TikTok into the phrase, so let's bring that in as well. TikTok, Meta, Google, like where are we investing our money best? Like what's going on at the moment in the industry?
To explain quickly, there's active and there's reactive marketing. Active marketing is where someone is searching for something, right? So I go on Google, emergency dentist near me. I'm what's called a high intent person because I'm doing a high intent search. I'm intending to buy something. And if you display me the right ad at the right time, I'm most likely to convert. Then you have reactive, and reactive, I'm sure we've all done it. Got a candle somewhere where I'm sat on Instagram, and there's this candle that's 20 quid off, and it's like a soy candle. I'm like, it's a one button press. Let's just buy it. Now I wasn't coming onto Instagram to buy a candle, but I ended up buying it. It's awful, but I ended up buying it because it was there. And when it comes to MSK in general, or let's just say healthcare in general, I would steer very clear of trying to sell on any social media platform, because first of all, it's very difficult to market those people. It's very difficult to target. How do you target someone with fungal nails or whatever it might be? And secondly, you have to give discounts. And there's not a clinic on the planet should be giving discounts anywhere. It's a terrible idea. It just completely undermines your brand. And we've had so many situations where clinics have come to us, they've spent a year or two doing these kind of initially successful ads, not financially, because they don't actually figure in the amount of admin that's done to chase people up. But initially, they're getting a lot of patients through. A year or two down the line, they've saturated the market. Everyone knows them as the cheap pod or the cheap physio. And we have a big job on our hands to rescue it. So do not run acquisition ads on Meta. What I would do is I would be running branded ads. I think just things that, as I explained earlier, hey, we're a really cool team, or you get a new team member join. Amy loves netball and golfing and she's amazing and this is what she does. Put that up. Why not? Run an ad. That's demand kind of generation. If you have a service that people don't know about, then you can run it on Meta. Because often if I have a hemp pink dog collar with dog biscuits sewn into it, like no one's searching for that, right? It's just not a search people will do. But I would be able to put it in front of dog owners to say, hey, look, I've got this crazy new thing, and dog owners buy anything, right? So put that on Meta. So if you've got something new that can work, but generally you want high intent patients, people who are searching for something, they want something. So really you go for Google ads. And now the market has completely changed. You should be running AI SEO as well. So that's sort of generative search, and everyone does it, whether they're on ChatGPT or even on Google now. I'm looking for this, and it gives you suggestions and whatever. You've got to make sure that you are running all of that to make sure that you're featuring in AI. Because I now use GPT like Google. I buy everything through GPT. I get all my recommendations from GPT, and GPT also surfaces things. So I think the last stat I saw was 30-something% of all people diagnose themselves on ChatGPT, and you say, I've got a sharp pain going down my left leg, and it will say, oh, it sounds like it could be sciatica. Would you like me to find you a professional in the area that can help you with that? Oh, yes, I'd like a female that's open on Saturdays, and it will then surface your clinic. And so it's really, really important that you're being found that way, because again, visibility is everything. And just to clarify something on visibility, if you and I opened up a shoe shop, a sweet shop, a whatever, dog groomers, a couple of options. One is the high street, and one is on an industrial estate around the corner. You always open on the high street. Why? Because that's where the footfall is. That's where people see you. And having really great SEO, Google ads and marketing means that you are on the high street. People are always seeing you whenever they're doing those searches. If you are on an industrial estate, this is why I think everyone should be doing marketing no matter what. The old, we just rely on word of mouth is kind of the last words of every clinic that's ever failed. And it doesn't take much for that to reduce. And another thing I'd say on that just very quickly is that as a business owner myself, I hate the idea that I have no impact, or I could have no impact on what my numbers look like. So it's slow this week. Well, as a marketing agency, we can turn the dial up. It's fine. We can bring patients in, or for us, it's customers. If you are just sat there passively, not able to turn the dial, you're in trouble as a business owner. It's actually a really, really scary thing. And doesn't matter if it's us or anybody, it really doesn't matter. You've got to have that ability to turn the dial up and down, right? You hire a new clinician, you need to turn the dial up. Your capacity is at 89%, well, turn the dial down. It's as simple as that. But you've got to have that control over your revenue and so on. Visibility, make sure you're visible. AI SEO and Google ads are the first two I would go to. And I will say that across all of the clinics that we work with, the three most important things, it's kind of like the Holy Trinity. It's a good website, good SEO, and good Google ads. That's it. And we work with some of the biggest, the 10 million, 20 million pound plus clinics. That is all they do as well. They don't do all this kind of complex marketing stuff. I know it all sounds very exciting, retargeting, you don't need to. Just be visible through those three things, and the job's done. You can be a £1 million clinic and just do those things.
The other thing I'd say is super interesting. Thank you. The other thing I'd say about the TikTok and the way you portray yourself on social media is also great for recruitment.
Yes,
which we know is a constant struggle, and it's something you always have to have an eye on. So having that out there and having that brand presence is obviously great for your patients if they want to find you that way. But retaining your team because they're part of something really cool, but also recruiting. I think that's a really strong.
Absolutely. And on that, you want to, for both for patients and for recruitment, you want to push your personalities. I don't want to see a thing about a guide to best 5 ways of dealing with your plantar fasciitis. I want to see like fun stuff. I want to see what's going on in the clinic. I want to see Emma's just done a marathon and died afterwards, or whatever it might be. Like, these are things that people again connect with, right? It's pushing that personality and who you are. Don't be too stupid. You don't want to see the team all getting shit-faced somewhere doing videos of it. That's not a good thing. But showing the team in a really good light makes all the difference.
Absolutely. And big shout out to LR Podiatry. Just want to say, because if you're looking for an example of how to do it, go to LR Podiatry's TikTok. It's fantastic. Emily and Louise, the owners, are wonderful. So yeah, a good example. Would you agree?
Really good example. They're one of our clients. I did a podcast with them actually not so long ago, and they're fantastic. What they do there is so interesting. And also, if nothing else, it's fun.
Really fun.
It's good for the culture of the business. I think it's, as you say, great for recruitment. And I think it brings a certain type of patient in as well, which I think is important. That's something we have. Let's not get into that today, but just on the point about the high pricing, everyone thinks of patients as the same. They're not. Everyone knows what an annoyingly tight patient is who doesn't want to come back and is trying to get discounts. And you tend not to get those at the higher end of the pricing. But the same goes with your socials and any kind of marketing you do. If your website looks like £1 million website and looks amazing, you are going to get a different type of patient, one that's ready to spend. A good example is Third Space, right? You look at Third Space as a gym, Third Space as pure gym. Pure gym, people are looking for the £25 a month and the free joining fee. Third Space, people are going in thinking, I don't know what the price is, but it doesn't matter because it's amazing. So that's just something to bear in mind as well.
Okay, and then finally, I'd love your thoughts, please, on how, as healthcare practitioners and business owners, we should be considering cost of acquisition. You know, I like to think of it as an investment rather than a cost. I'd love to just glean, if you may, just a couple of minutes on how we should think about the cost of acquiring a patient.
Okay, so cost of acquisition is how much it costs you to acquire a patient. Let's say you spend £100 on Google Ads, it gets you one patient, your cost of acquisition is 100, just for those people that don't know. The first thing before doing anything is being able to track. If you are doing anything in life blindly, you don't know what's going on, and you there's no point in even doing marketing. It makes no sense because you could be just throwing money into a pit. So you've got to have some level of tracking. You mentioned earlier about different systems. I do not get paid for this, but if I was a clinic owner, the only system I would use right now is Clinico. It's the absolute only one. Everything else is a 3 or a 4, many are 1s or 2s. One of the great things about Clinico is it's really good for conversions. And that comes into cost of acquisition as well, because if you convert 20% of people that come through to your website, it's a very different ball game to 10 people or 3 people or 2 people. So just bear that in mind. But your cost of acquisition, once you're able to track, I wouldn't worry about cost of acquisition. Anything that is within your margins makes sense. Now, as an example, let's say you spend £500, which sounds like a lot of money to a lot of clinic owners. If that gets you 10 patients, let's just say hypothetically, gets you 10 patients, £50 cost of acquisition, I'm relatively happy with that. Why? Well, what's your lifetime value of a patient? £500? Okay, well, if it's £500, you've just made £5,000 from 500. That's a 10 times return, right? And if you can track it, happy days. Like, the question isn't, oh, should I spend it? It's like, how much more can I spend? Can I sell my house and make it 50,000? Now, it doesn't quite work like that, but the point is, anything that's over a 3 or 4 times return is great. That's where we want to be. We generally get between 5 and 7, depending on the clinic, but you want to be at anything above 3. And then it's just investment. I always say to people, if every time you give me £1, I'll give you 3 back, how many pound coins would you find? You'd find a lot. So that's important. Now, one thing to think about, however, is that if you are hiring on contract rather than PAYE, you've got to bear that in mind, because it's all well and good saying, well, I've got 5 patients at £500, that's £2,500, okay, and it's cost me 500. Great, it's still a good return. But if you're only seeing half of that, suddenly you're seeing 1250 for your 500. And now you've only made 750 margin, but you've got to take a few other things off of that, right? Consumables, and depending on what you're treating, because you're going to have cost of treating people, maybe that only returns you 400 or 300. That's a different discussion. So just bear in mind, if you are contracting people rather than on PAYE, it does make a little bit of difference. So it's important to think of that. And also think about other costs when you're running it. It's called CAC, which is your total cost against the cost of the marketing. So just bear that in mind. I mean, don't put every cost in, but in general terms, you want to really think about that. But for most clinics, you should be running Google Ads. You should be doing all of these things, because if it generates you even 5 new patients a month, as long as you're not spending £5,000 to get them, even if it costs you 500 quid to get 5 patients, I'd probably still do it. I'd be wondering why it's £100 a patient. It should be a lot less than that, unless, again, you are trying to sell £500 biomechanical things, and that's different. Bear that in mind. But that's your cost of acquisition. So I would say never think of anything as a cost. If you can track it properly, then you know if it's an investment or a cost. And if you are not getting your return on it, well, then find someone else to do your marketing, whether that's us or anybody else. Like, if our clients, if we cannot get results for someone, and that's just the way it is, just I'm sure you have it with patients, then the answer is go and find someone else. We cannot make this work. And it's important that you understand when something is working or isn't working. But final thing on this actually is do not ever, just like when your coaching clients start panicking because they had 3 bad days of new patient numbers, and they've had 4 record months and suddenly they've had 3 bad days and they're like, oh my god, my business is going to the floor. Think about your marketing over a 90-day period, not over a 2-day period or a 5-day period or even a month period. It is important. You have seasonality, you have things that impact things. So look at your marketing over a slightly longer time period. That's also really important.
Yeah, we always say to sort of have a daily check-in, look at the numbers, because you should roughly know what you need to be making to make your margins work. But then, zoom right out and look at the patterns and look at the trends that you're seeing. We like to look at 13 months, so you've always got the same month last year, and that kind of stuff. So that there is definitely a case to look into it and be like, cool, how have we done this week for new patients or whatever, patient numbers? But then take that as some data and then zoom out for sure.
Can I give just one very quick final tip that I've been giving people recently? Because everyone thinks that their setup's amazing. Go and find some friends, some honest friends, and ask them to try and book an appointment and ask them what that process is like and how easy it was and how the phone was answered. Do a little bit of secret shopping, just once a quarter. Get a friend to do it. Test your contact form. How long does it take to answer? Because again, when we're doing marketing and we see numbers go down, we do marketing for only kind of healthcare clinics, so we know what we're doing. When numbers go down, the first thing we say is what's going on internally, and often it is something along those lines. So I would definitely, as good as you think your website is or your reception team or whatever, get your friend to book an appointment, cancel it afterwards, but ask them to ask for something a bit, maybe ask them to be difficult. Let's see how the team deals with it. Because if you're doing marketing and it takes you 3 days to get back to on a contact form, you've just wasted your money. If 40% of all patients drop off your website because they can't find how to book or it takes too long or they can't find the condition, then there's a problem. It's super, super important before doing marketing that you get the basics right.
I've got to say thank you for that, because I love it when a patient rings and says, I need this and I don't know what to do. I can't work out what's happening on your website. Like, I need gait analysis, but I can't find that appointment type on your booking thing. I'm like, that's a really good point. Because to me, it does say that in my blurb, and this happened recently. I was like, well, it's an MSK appointment. And I'm like, yeah, I need to be clearer. So that's amazing. Thank you. It's really helpful when someone semi-complains that they don't know how to do something.
Depends on the best way to learn. But another little tip, especially for Clinico is alphabetical, right? So your appointments are in all sorts of different orders. Just put a number in front of the appointment type so that you can put the appointment that you want most. And I would always make that podiatry if you're a podiatrist, or physiotherapy. The amount of times I see biomechanical services right at the top, and you're hitting people with a £300 price tag of something they are not looking for. They just want a routine point. So think about all of these little things. It's amazing how these little things all add up to something that either kills marketing or kills a clinic. Because if you do all those things wrong, or if you do them right, you can get an extra 5%. And with the margins that everyone's working at, an extra 5% on 100 patients, 5 patients is a lot. And so you cannot be dropping a patient here or there. You're not some SaaS company that makes 2 million lifetime value off a patient. So get all of those little basics right, but get your friend to try it, because you cannot be objective. You've looked at your amazing website and your booking process and everything's incredible. Get a friend to test it out honestly,
and be willing to accept the feedback. That's the key. Just keep an open mind. They're a critical friend. They're trying to help you. Don't get defensive.
I found it difficult. There is no arguing against that. It's simply that you found it difficult. Fix that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to wrap it up there, but I'd love to have some more discussions. I could talk to you all day about this. It's fascinating stuff, and appreciate your valuable insights. Thank you, Michael. That's amazing. So that's all for this episode of the Optimised Practice Podcast. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to our podcast on Spotify or YouTube so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms so we can keep you up to date on our upcoming episodes. If you want help building your practice, please reach out to us here at the Hive so we can show you how to build a profitable, stable, and highly respected practice that can ultimately work without your daily input. Thanks, folks. I'll see you in the next episode.